The gap in power and wealth between the rulers and the ruled is measured precisely by information lag. The first person to receive news will accumulate all valuable resources. The person who only finds out when everything is already splashed across the front pages is the one who must pay the price for the entire game. The social landscape always operates according to a cold and hard rule. Prosperity always flows toward the room where information arrives earliest. Anyone standing outside this closed circle is merely a bystander, trailing behind the times, diligently picking up the scraps left over from the banquet. This division repeats itself every day, from small transactions in the marketplace to decisions that reshape the face of an entire economy. Insider information possesses the power to create artificial scarcity. Imagine an urban planning map. A small group of politicians and real estate developers sit around a large table. A line is drawn, marking the location of a new road about to be built. At the very moment the ink touches the paper, the barren strips of land surrounding that road transform into a massive fortune. Before this map is made public to the citizenry, those in the closed room have already sent people to buy up all the land from farmers or ordinary workers at very low prices. The land sellers take the money, thinking they have just scored a bargain. They happily count their cash, completely unaware that they have just sold away their family future for a pittance. The advantage of capturing information ahead of time functions like compound interest. It builds upon itself and multiplies rapidly. A well-timed decision brings high profits. This capital then becomes a ticket into even more exclusive circles, where they continue to receive information even earlier. Those at the top do not keep secrets only for themselves. They create privileged networks to exchange news. They trade opportunities with one another in the same way ordinary people trade goods. A factory owner knows a raw material supply chain is about to break. He immediately notifies a bank manager. The manager instantly adjusts capital flows and informs a policymaker. All of them shift to a safe position before the storm hits. By the time the average worker realizes the factory is closing due to a lack of materials, they are left with nothing but a resignation letter and anxiety over tomorrow's meal. After news has fulfilled its mission of creating an advantage for the early birds, it is pushed out into the streets. This is when it dons the cloak of public information. Television screens broadcast bulletins continuously. Newspapers print bold headlines. Social media is flooded with lively analyses and commentary. Ordinary office workers sip their morning coffee while reading the news, firmly believing they are seizing an opportunity. They enter the market, buying an asset that is rising in price or following a newly emerging trend. They feel wise because they have carefully analyzed what they read from mainstream sources. The truth is that by the time news becomes free and accessible to everyone, its economic value has been squeezed dry. Public information is not designed to help the masses become wealthy. It is released to trigger a chain reaction, pooling the money of the vulnerable into a large mass of liquidity to help insiders take their profits and exit safely. When millions of workers take their hard-earned savings to buy a rising asset, they are the ones buying that asset from those who accumulated it months ago. Transparency in the market is, in reality, a magnificently decorated trap to lure the crowd into voluntarily entering the vortex. The concept of public information is also used by influential voices as a perfect tool for steering mass psychology. A wealthy merchant only needs to type a few lines on social media praising a cryptocurrency. Immediately, millions of followers rush to buy, believing they are walking in the footsteps of a successful man. The massive buying pressure from the crowd drives the asset's value to extreme heights. At the very peak of the fever, the merchant group quietly sells off all the assets they bought when the price was still cheap. The crowd is left holding assets that plummet uncontrollably afterward. That message was public, it was transparent, but the true intent behind it was a cold calculation. It is very easy to confuse heavy media presence with honesty. The process of transforming a secret into public information is a gray area filled with calculation. The greatest shift in wealth occurs during the time gap between when a decision is finalized and when it is announced for everyone to hear. The art of manipulation lies in stretching this time interval for as long as possible. Look at how large corporations prepare to cut thousands of jobs. Top leaders have known about this plan 6 months in advance. During those 6 months, they take the opportunity to lock in personal bonuses, restructure contracts, and redirect investments. Outside the boardroom, employees are still encouraged to work overtime, still dedicating their effort and trusting in the company's growth message. When the layoff decision is finally announced under the guise of restructuring, the workers have only a few days to pack their things and leave in shock. While waiting for the news to be released, the ruling group uses another tactic to blind the crowd, which is the intentional complication of information. Financial reports are presented in hundreds of pages filled with convoluted terminology. Laws are drafted in long and winding language. An average person works 8 hours a day, then has to go grocery shopping, cook, and care for children. Their minds are too exhausted to dissect dry figures or twisted phrasing. This state of energy depletion causes them to either ignore it or follow the summary of a stranger on the internet. The designers of the rules know this weakness very well. By carpet bombing people with data, they cause the crowd to become overloaded. Transparency through the exposure of every figure now serves as a solid shield. The crowd has the right to access the information, but they are completely incapable of understanding it. Sometimes, hiding the truth or making it complicated is still not enough. At this point, the active creation of misinformation begins to take effect. Spreading fake news is not just a media failure, it is a calculated method to legally harvest resources. A rumor is started that a corporation is about to be heavily fined. That corporation's stock price crashes miserably. Small investors, fearing the loss of their capital, frantically sell everything. Just as the price hits rock bottom, invisible hands scoop up all those shares. A few days later, a correction appears, confirming there is no penalty at all. The stock price recovers to its original position. The profit has changed hands, and the workers have once again lost their assets simply because of a staged fear. In the system of social management, public information is frequently used as a decoy to distract attention. When lawmakers prepare to pass a tax law beneficial to corporate groups, they need to ensure the public does not resist. Suddenly, the press is flooded with a celebrity scandal or a cultural controversy. Every eye is fixed on that surface-level drama. People become absorbed in defending their personal opinions, angrily criticizing one another online. While attention is tied to these inconsequential issues, important legal documents directly related to their tax money and their meals are quietly signed and approved. The more outraged the crowd is by things on the surface, the more easily their fate is decided in the depths. Entering the era of artificial intelligence, this inequality widens many times over. When the speed of information transmission is measured in milliseconds, ordinary workers are completely excluded from the race. Financial institutions manipulate the market using computers capable of reading news bulletins and executing thousands of trades before the human eye can even see the first word. A construction worker or a salesperson uses their phone to follow price charts and tells themselves they are competing fairly because everyone has the internet. That is an illusion. They are entering a race where the winner has already been decided by technology. By the time information hits the screen of an average worker, all profits have been stripped clean by the machines. The current social system is not broken. It functions exactly as a power stratification machine. The most authentic and highly beneficial streams of information are retained at the top filter, where the creators of the game stand. Passing through the intermediate layers, that information is truncated, delayed, and supplemented with misleading details. What falls to the bottom layer, where the vast majority of workers live, is nothing but the dregs. These dregs are the daily news, just enough for the crowd to gossip about, just enough for them to believe they are keeping up with the times, and most importantly, just enough to incite them to spend money. People still work hard, earn money, and invest based on a pre-arranged script. The boundary between using a knowledge advantage and cruel manipulation is so blurred that no one can clearly define it. Enormous fortunes are maintained not by violence, but by the time gap between what is discussed in closed boardrooms and what is announced on television. When a person is convinced that simply working hard and reading a lot of news can protect their life, they have become a perfect piece of this invisible system of deprivation. Social rules always encourage transparency, but the greatest benefits always belong to those who know how to keep the truth hidden until the very last second. If every fluctuation that affects your wallet has already been known and calculated by someone else long ago, then in the end, are you the master of your own life? Or are you just diligently paying a fee to participate in someone else's script?